Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Dynamics 365 Tech Talk. Today's topic is what's new in the October 2022 release for Configurable Business Documents. My name is Tim, and I will be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this session through Teams live events, and audio can be heard through your device speakers. This session is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. When you join this event, your name, email address, and/or phone number may be called by other session participants in the attendee list. By joining, you are agreeing to this experience. The recording will be made available on the TechTalks Community Dynamics page within the coming weeks. If you have questions for our presenters or need support, please use the Q&A panel located on the right side of your screen. Our presenters will be responding to your questions throughout the event, in the Q&A panel, and during a live Q&A segment at the end of the session. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Mikhail Filatov, Principal PM Manager, and Maxim Podolski, Senior Software Engineer. Mikhail, over to you to get us started.
Thank you, Tim. Hi, everybody. My name is Mikhail Filatov, and welcome to our biannual TechTalk, right? We would do an overview of Configurable Business Documents functionality, and the main part would be introducing you new features, which we released in October 2022 release, and overall, which we released since the last TechTalk, which we did for April release. And after that, Maxim will do a lot of cool demos of these features. And at the end of this TechTalk, we'll have a lot of time for you Q&A, right? So, but you can ask the question like in chat during the presentation, right? So we'll answer them at the end, right? Read them loudly. Just an introduction, maybe a lot of you saw this slide, just maybe there are some new people, right, who didn't see Configurable Business Documents before, right, just to make sure that it makes sense for you, right? So we have electronic reporting functionality, which exists in finance and operations since the beginning of IX7, right, first release of Cloud FNO. And this functionality is very powerful. It has rich designers, which allows you to set up payment formats, electronic invoices, or any other electronic document output, right? And it's based on domain-driven data models like ISO 222 for payments or UBL for invoicing. Being that powerful, right, it requires some skills, not developer skills, right? We targeted for what we call Simon persona. Simon is a consultant system implementer, right? So he is not a developer persona, but still he is quite experienced, right? Knows a lot of things, right? So he's technical, but not developer. So what we're doing with Configurable Business Documents, we are opening this experience but simplifying it for a real business user persona, right? Which we call Phyllis, right? She is an accounting manager. She obviously knows her business a lot, right? Her business processes, right? She knows Office, Excel, and Word very well, but she's not technical. And what we are doing with Configurable Business Documents, we created a workspace for her, for Phyllis, called Business Document Management, where she can create or edit her business documents like invoices, packing slips, quotations, confirmations, etc., right? In Excel or Word, either in Office Online or Office Desktop user interface. So she is not using ER by herself, but all this functionality, all this versioning, ILM story, it's available in the background. So all these reports are actually being presented as electronic reporting configurations, so Simon can also contribute for more complex scenario when his involvement is required, right? So that's the idea of Configurable Business Documents and overall functional architecture of them. And again, we are not introducing this functionality at this TechTalk, right? Actually, we did it in October 19 release 3 years ago, right? So now it's our 7th TechTalk introducing you new features in October 2022, right? So I would recommend you to watch previous TechTalks, right, for actually introduction and a set of features which we continuously release since October 19 and will plan to release in the future, right? And also for electronic reporting, we have an overview on docs on learning Microsoft.com, right? So please have a look at them. There are a lot of materials there. Now to the main subject of our Tech Talk, to new features. And I will be talking not only about October 2022 features, but also about previous monthly update and actually 10 or 30, next monthly update, right? Basically a set of features which we released since the last Tech Talk in April, right? So you'll have a continuity of all the things which we are doing in configurable business documents and electronic reporting, actually. So the first feature, we call it local conversion of business documents from Word to PDF. Basically, before this feature, we always use like a special service from Microsoft to do the conversion from Excel and Word to PDF. Unfortunately, due to a special setup of our Word documents, right, this conversion can be slow, right, and would not really work on big documents like 300 plus pages, right? So this feature enables a conversion of these Word documents to PDF format by doing it locally, right? So we're not calling any service, right? We have some special business logic, right, which we can run and execute on iOS. So it's much faster, right, and can work for big documents of converting Word to PDF, right? So it enables a lot of customer scenarios which were blocked before for using Word in CBD. Next feature, right? It's again, it's small one, but it's really important, right? I heard about them in many customer discussion, like to cover this end-to-end scenario, right? It's an ability to change page layout of a template at runtime. So basically, before that, you had to change a configuration, right, to change layout. And it basically means that you need to have a derived version of configuration, right, to cover different layouts, right? Obviously, it's not convenient, right? If depending on the run, you need to change your layout. So now we enabled these properties and ER destination, right? So you can use the power of electronic reporting destination to set up all these parameters, right? And use them at runtime without changing ER configuration. So it's really more business user-oriented experience, Phyllis-oriented experience versus Simon-oriented experience. Next feature is more for electronic reporting, not for business documents, right? But this is something which we heard from our customers. And again, a lot of these features which we are doing are based on the feedback from customers and partners, right? Which we observe, like talking with them and actually getting some support requests, right? So investigating pain points, right? One of the issue which we have is with this draft status, right? So it's not clear sometimes for people when they use ER, right? How draft status of model mapping, and actually we'll be talking later about format as well, right? Configuration as well is used at runtime, right? So we have some settings there, right? And now we enabled functionality so you can just ignore this draft version of your ER model mapping. It's a small feature, right? But actually we got a lot of support requests because people were confused what actually, what model mapping version has been executed, right? The previous set of features was released in 10.29, basically this October release. Now we already have a new monthly update in this October wave, right? 10.30. And we continue to release features for electronic reporting and business documents in this monthly update. So First one is obsolete artifacts detection. It's more for ER, right? So basically, in case when you use some artifacts like classes, methods, tables in model mapping, which are being obsolete, right? You would not get this information from running validation on electronic reporting site, right? So basically, it means that you would not get the notice that something is going to be deprecated, right? Later, right? So now we add this check, right? So basically, it allows you to run the validation of electronic reporting artifacts and see that some components, maybe of ISV solution or of Microsoft code base, is being obsolete, right? So it would be removed further down the line, right, in a year or so, right, and you have a lot of time to change the design of your ER configurations and update it to the new approach, right, which is replacing the obsolete code. Small improvement in the formula designer usability. So basically just reducing number of clicks, right, for seeing the formula and adding, going to the data sources of this formula. And another one, again, is small improvement, but we heard about this issue from several customers, right? So basically we had some issues with the way scaling of pictures works in Excel, right? In some complex scenarios, right? So we improved this functionality. So now it's consider actual scaling and aspect ratio of images. So when they are added to generated documents. And the last slide before Max will do demos, right, of some of these features for you, right, is about several features which were released in 10.28, which is not actually October release. It was the last monthly update of April 2022 release, right? But we didn't talk about these features in our previous TechTalk, right? So we are introducing them here. One feature is, again, mostly for ER, right? But it can be valid for business documents configurations as well, right? More like Simon can do it and help Phyllis to get better performance, right? So it's an ability to reduce the number of table fields that are fetched at runtime, right? So by default, before all the fields, right, in the table data source, table like data source, have been selected, right? Which means that, yeah, it can be a lot of overhead if you need just several fields in your model mapping, right, for example. So this feature enables you to configure the fields, right, which are required for this AR format. So it obviously reduces memory consumption, retrieval rate, and like I use the size of the cache, so it allows you to cache more, right? And also it simplifies the UX of your configuration. You would see just limited set of fields, right, which are being mapped. Next small feature, again, it's based on the feedback which we are getting from customers, right? The way our update from Excel template works, right? Worked before, it didn't update Excel header and footer, right? If they were changed, right? So you can change like header and footer, right? And import your Excel template back to the configuration. The change wouldn't be applied there, right? We change this, right, based on customer feedback, right? So now you can have only these changes, right? Not changes in the main section of the report, right? And still apply it and get the updates in electronic reporting. And the last one, again, it's a small feature, but actually probably number one or number two from the support requests count, right, which we're getting in electronic reporting and business documents, right? Because it's also applicable for business documents, right? So basically, the issue which we have is that when you start setting up electronic reporting destination, right, they would not be applied by default to a draft format unless you apply a special parameter, right? And it was not obvious for partners and customers, right, why it's happening, right? So basically you set up your report, let's say in business document, which has draft status not completed, you set up electronic reporting destination, and then you see that this ER destination doesn't work, doesn't apply to this report, right? And people are confused why it's so, right? We have a parameter, but it's quite well hidden, right? So it takes time, right, to actually find that you need to enable functionality, right, to run draft configuration with ER destinations. So basically what we do now, what we did, right, we actually analyze the setup, right, when you do the ER destination settings, and just warn you that in this setting, this ER destination would not be executed, and immediately ask you if you want to fix it, right? And if you want, we would fix it for you. So basically the system like prevents any confusion, right? Because we know that this confusion can happen, right? And just do the work for you to complete the setup work in ER destination for business documents and electronic reporting configurations, so it would run and execute smoothly. So that's all for introduction, and now it's time for election for cool demos from Maxim. Maxim, over to you.
Thank you, Mikhail. Hi, everyone, and let's start our demo. The first feature I'd like to demonstrate to you is reduction number of fields fetched at runtime. And for the demonstration purpose, I will show you the invoice model mapping. Let's head to the designer. I've pre-captured a couple of traces ahead of time to show you what's going on. And as an example, let's take a look at custom invoice table and see that during the execution, it requests all the fields that exist in that table. And to reduce the number of fields, we added a new button at the options of table records data source. So you can see that here you can select the fields. And for example, let's remove all of them and go back. It will refresh the data source tree. And you can see now that for that table, there are quite a lot of different fields that are available for the user. But if you want to reduce this number of fields, or you don't want to see all of these, you can select fields that you want to be requested from the server and to be seen in the designer. And to do that, you have two options. You can add them manually, one by one. That will take time and that will require quite some knowledge of the configuration. Or you can use afterfill option. It will analyze the configuration and use used passes from the configuration to fill this data. What are the use passes? When you create any formula and you use any field or relation from the table in your formula, it will remember this pass as a use pass, and later it will be analyzed to fill these used fields to help you select the fields that are required to execute this exact report. And now, if we go back, you can see that we don't see all of these anymore. We see only fields that are required for this exact configuration, only relations that you previously selected for these. And let's see how the trace changed. Let's load the second trace that I have and find this table again. Yeah, and here you can see that we selected only a couple of fields. There are some extra fields like record ID that will be requested anyway, even if you don't select this, but they're mandatory for the record. But overall, it will reduce the number of fields only to the selected ones. And that will reduce the payload from the SQL server. And more importantly, for example, you have a table that contains quite a lot of fields, and you need to join the table to another table which also contain quite a lot of fields. And when you do so, you may hit the limitation for the number of fields requested. And that means that you can't practically execute that join on the SQL server side. And this feature helps you to still be able to do that by reducing the number of fields that you're going to request from the server. There are a couple of limitations for this feature, and one of those, we can't filter methods. So if you filter the number of fields in that table, you don't see methods anymore. For example, like this is not filtered, and here you see tables, like methods. For this one, you will not be able even to select methods, because in this designer, you see only fields. We filtered out the methods from this field selection designer, and you can do that. This is done because if you select, if you know what field is going to be used in this method, later this method could be changed by someone not knowing that there are some configuration exists for this, and they may add another field to this method, and we can track this. So for now, we limit this functionality only to fields, so we don't allow method to be used. And I think that's pretty much it for this. And let's go to the next. Next would be destination applicability. And for example, you can see here is a warning that I've created a new configuration which doesn't have anything except the draft. And we can see it here. So nothing here. But you're still going to design this configuration. For example, you did it. And when you execute that, you don't see destination at all. But you don't understand why it's happening. So here we show you the warning that current setup is not applicable, this destination to your configuration. And here's a button to resolve this. It will set all required parameters. And in this case, that would set the user parameters to yes. And this parameter is located here in the user parameters. And this button checked this box for you and did the setup. And now if you run this configuration, you will see the destination. That's a small feature, I know, but it's quite useful for the end user. Next feature I'd like to talk about is template options and layout settings. So here, when you set up the file destination for Word or Excel component, you'll see these options now. So you can either use template parameter, or you can select the new one. And then during the execution, after the file was generated, it will edit those properties in that file and set it for you without modifying the template. So you can change the paper to the values that we have here, or you can change the margins to the new values, and you can select the unit length for those margins. It could be either inches, centimeters, or millimeters, and then it will be applied after the file generation. And the next feature I'd like to talk about is local PDF conversion for Word documents. And before that, as Mikhail already told you, that we used Microsoft Service to convert. But since GR is using custom XML part to generate the Word documents, it takes quite a while to apply this custom XML part to the real components and then render this out. And when you generate quite a big file, it could time out because of this service that we use there are some limitations of the time. So we implemented the new option for that to use local resources to convert this. And for example, let's generate file with 50 lines here and it generate instantly. And let's do 5,000 lines now. It will take a little more time, but it's still much faster and it's reliable, and it will generate this file just in a second. This feature of using the local resources also enables the conversion for LBD environments, on-prem environment, and you will be able to use conversion to PDF from Word on your LBD machines. So here, and now we have 103 pages. For this document, even opening in the Word to manually convert it to PDF will take quite some time. And for the next feature, I'd like to discuss with you the obsolete functionality. And I've used test classes and test tables here. And as you can see, for example, when you use anything, there are a couple of cases here. For example, you have your table, which is not obsolete, but you have, for example, some method that is instance method that is obsolete. And when you use this, it will show you an error, a warning about this, that this method is marked as obsolete and you should use something else. It will also show you the message from obsolete attribute here. This message should help you understand what else you could use. Most of the time, it will contain like, this method is obsolete, please use something else. And if we unbind this warning for this method goes away. So it will not show you every method that is obsolete for this table, even if you don't use it. It will show it to you only if you use this. And there are second case. For example, you have a class that has been marked as obsolete. And now, as it's marked, if you don't remove usage of this class later, it may break the configuration. So the configuration may not load up well, and it will throw runtime exception. And here, even if I don't use it, it still show me that this class is marked as obsolete. And you need to remove this class to whatever else is suggested for you in the text message that is being pulled from the metadata. And this a different scenario, of course, if the class is not obsolete and you use something like method that is obsolete in this class, you will see the message only for the method. And that should help to keep the configuration healthy and prepare for obsolescence ahead of time. And that should increase the stability of your solutions. And that's it for the demo. Let's go back to Mikhail for Q&A session.
Thank you, Maxim. So yeah, now it's time for Q&A, and we actually have quite a few questions in the chat. So what we will do, is that we will read these questions, right? In like probably starting from the bottom, and I see the new questions are coming. So please continue, right, asking these questions. So we have quite a lot of time to actually answer them, right? Okay, so let's start our questions, right? So first one, is a local conversion of business documents from Excel to PDF also on the roadmap? I would say that again, we did Word, a local conversion of Word, right? Because we face like quite severe issues with big documents, right? So again, as of now, I can't tell you that we have this Excel to PDF conversion on the roadmap, right? It really depends on the like customer scenario, right? So far, I haven't heard that like we have issues with Excel, right? But yeah, that's something that we may consider, right? But as of now, we don't have it like on the roadmap officially. Next question, is this local conversion available on one boxes as well? Answer is yes. Yeah, so it's like part of the basically our like F&O product, right? Finance product. So yeah, whenever you can execute it, right, it would execute, right? So we have let me publish a couple of more questions. So from Florian, so if I understood correctly, so the local PDF conversion don't need the Adobe running as an application on the server with the DRE. I know, Maxim, maybe you can answer this.
Florian, you don't even need Adobe to be installed on this machine. So there is no need of Adobe to exist on this machine or be run. So yeah, you don't need it. And for the next question, I think I can answer this one too.
Okay, go ahead.
When it comes to relation filter for reduced number of fields feature, how do we know what fields are required to be selected for the particular relation to work? When you select any relation fields or relation with this feature, you don't need to know about what fields do you need, because system will analyze the metadata for this relation and will automatically select all required fields for this relation to work. So you don't need to worry about this. ER will do this automatically, and that will be executed without any work from your side. Okay, and for the next one, for the Word to PDF conversion feature, what are the limitations for the input file? There are no limitations, to be honest, but if you use some complex structure for these Word documents and you apply, and for example, you have a lot of different multi-level structure with subcomponents, that might take a while to convert. So for example, for 100 pages in my case, it took like a minute. But if you create document with bigger sizes with much more pages, it will convert it, but it will take more time to do that. And if you run within the UI session, you may time out and you need to click wait for the application. So if you expect for a very big document to be converted, I suggest you to use batch.
Thank you, Maxim. I think I know. I have a question from Florian. Maybe Max, if we can do it now. Can you provide us a quick look on the formula designer usability enhancement? I don't know if it's something doable. Otherwise, we'll refer you to documentation, right? So.
Sure. I mean, that's really small feature. But I will take over.
Yes, go ahead. Yes, we'll do it, Florian.
For example, let's go here. ER have this feature of context passes. We can call it relative passes. And for example, here, you see that the designer have this relative path displayed here. And previously, if you want to add something from this, not exactly in this formula, but in whatever formula you want, and you need to like look here, where is it, open it up, then open the relation. But now you can just, it's like here, yeah. And now you can just click this button and it will point you directly to this path instantly. So there is no need for you to scroll through everything, open it up, then search for the next path, etc., etc., etc. And this is especially helpful when you work with filters and you need, for example, like add another field in the condition. And you just click one button and it will instantaneously point you to that path. Now you can select whatever field you want.
Yes, thank you, Max. Let me switch over to deck just so we continue with Q&A, right? So, yep, hopefully, Florian, we answered your questions. So now let's come back. So where we was, yeah, I think there was some like questions about training, and again, I would say that like I would recommend to watch this TechTalks, right? And again, on Learn Microsoft.com, we have quite a lot of documentation about AR and business documents, and also there's like they're part of standard training materials, right? But again, it's like when talk about effectively create documents, right? It's electronic reporting. We really need to be more specific, right? Because again, it's really like AR is quite a powerful tool, right? But at the same time, there are two main scenarios here, right? I would say scenario number one is when you are customizing an existing, let's say, configuration, or just let's say we have this payment formats like bucks, for example, for United Kingdom, right? And you do changes for a bank, right? We have quite a detailed overview. You can see it actually on docs or on Learn Microsoft.com, and also in our Tech Talks, right? How you customize, let's say, bucks, right? How you create your own derived configuration, add new fields, right? And use existing model, right? So this is one scenario, right? So basically, scenario of customization, that's basically, I think, our main scenario, right? Which we are supporting, right? So, but for this scenario, you need to know the domain, right? It could be payment or invoicing, for example, for electronic invoice, or tax reporting for tax declaration, right? And then actually learn more like about the domain, about the data model, right? For example, you need to understand payments and SEPA, right? Our ISO 222 based payments model to find right fields, right? And the same for invoicing, you need to know UBL and understand what is in our model, right? Which is also based on UBN, right? So that's a lot of domain knowledge here, right? So it's not, let's say it ER specific, right? It really need to map like mentally, right, from what you need to add and find it in our models, right? So, but another scenario is when you design something like from scratch in ER for your own reports, right? So you're just using ER as a tool, right? And here, right, I think we have quite a lot of description of how you can create a new configuration, use formula designer. We have description of all like the formulas, right, functions which you can use in formulas, etc. Right. So I think that basically, depending on your scenario, right, if you're just designing something from scratch using AI as a tool, I think we have quite detailed documentation on docs on Learn Microsoft.com, right? But if you think about using, let's say, AR for customizing something in existing domains like payment and invoicing, right? In addition to knowing your AR, business documents, you need to know the domain, right? Because like you need to understand how to find this like new fields in like ISO model, etc. Right? So I think this domain knowledge, it's something that we don't cover in AR, right? It's partially covered in like other when we're describing our invoicing functionality, payment functionality, right? But a lot of the things is probably you need to know as a domain expert, right, for this area. Okay, so next question, not really a question, but a follow-up to asking about local conversion of Excel to PDF. Every few months, we have the online conversion break, and our option is waiting out a day or more with document not converting well. Not a great option of flipping the PDF conversion off. It would be a fallback option to turn. Yeah, I think it. Thank you for this question, right? It's again something, as I said, that we are evaluating, right? Maybe you can, I know, if you have not contacted us before, right? Please contact myself and Maxim, right? And we can follow up with you, right? So like, again, it's like one thing we need to improve existing experience, right? And also see what we can do better for the PDF conversion, right? Because absolutely, I agree, it's experience which should work all the time, right? You shouldn't need to wait for this, right? So we obviously would like to reduce customer pain as much as possible. Next question, does the model mapping designer automatically pick up modifications that may have been made, for example, added tables outside of the standard F&O design? Or as part of modification, do we need to have our partner added to the designer?
I can answer this.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there are two cases for this. One case is when you design something on a dev box, and sometimes you need manually refresh the metadata table in the GR, and there is button for the table data source. If you don't see the table that exists on the iOS side, and you don't see this in the drop down on the GR table records data source, there is button at the bottom, refill table. This is one case. A second case, if it's something production ready and it's already deployed to your production, most likely it will be already there. So you don't need partner to add anything to the designer. GR works as it analyzes the metadata of the system it currently runs to. It might be Dataverse, it might be F&O, and it creates a list of accessible tables or entities, and then it shows it up to you with a filtering option. You can filter it out, you can select this up. So there is no real need for anyone to add anything to the GR. GR works on top of the system, and we try to reduce the number of manual actions as much as possible. So I hope it answers your question.
Yeah, thank you, Maxim. So I think that there were several other questions coming, like from Matthias. Regarding the reduced number of fields feature, is it possible that the changes made for this feature had caused the errors that Sasha described here? I think we need to probably have a look at this, right? I don't think that we will answer now, right? So let's check it out, right? So we'll check it out after that, right? So is the documentation held centrally? If so, where, right? Yes, on learn.microsoft.com, right? There's a reference to like electronic reporting, which has all the like tutorials, also describe business documents, ILM, all the things, right? So this is a landing page for us. What is the best way to contact you? Okay, here's my mail. I'm just typing it, so you can just send it to me. Yeah. Yeah, I think Tim answered this question, right? So about the video for this session, right? It will be available on TechTalk's community page within the coming weeks, and you can see actually all the TechTalks. As I mentioned, this is TechTalk number 7, actually, for business documents and AR, right? Since we started it, the series in October 2019, right? So all 6 are available on this page, right, for our TechTalk series, right? And this one would be available there as well. Next question from Matthew: is there an easy way to export input configurations between F&O environments, right? So I would refer you to like global IPO functionality, right? So I think that when we talk about our life cycle, right? So we used to have LCS, right? And now we have global IPO, right? As a repository, right? Where you can publish configurations and download them, right? Import them from other environment, right? So again, I think you can watch one of the previous tech talks, right? We're actually even showing how you can do the same with business documents, right? So it's like central place where you publish the configuration, right? And it becomes available for all the environments on your tenant, right? So you can download it from another environment, right? Okay, so any other questions? So I think we still have time. Okay, we have one more question. Let me publish it. Can I get back the hidden fields in case I need to add an additional field data, Maxim?
Yeah, one of the options, you can go to your table records data source, and if you click select fields, as I showed, at the bottom, which opens up the designer. I can demo this, Mikhail, if you're fine with it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, I think we have time.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, taking over. For example, here, let's go back to the case. So you want some additional field. We already selected all of these. And here you see every field that table have to offer. And you can add manually any of those fields, and they will become visible at the designer, and you can use them in any formula. Same comes to the relations. You will see all the relations. It takes some time to load because there are a lot. And here you see all the relations are here. You can use any of those, and it will automatically show up. Let's save this, for example. And those fields will show up in the designer. So you can use it. So for example, these are new fields that I've just added. And you can bind them, you can use it in formula, and it will automatically select those fields during the execution. I think that's it.
Thank you, Max. So let me again take over. Just so we see it. Okay, just let's wait for a minute with any other questions. Yeah, I think we have one more come in. Let's see, what was it? Yeah, I think it's yeah, RCS and global repo. Yes, that's Florian is completely right. And I think yeah, just let me just maybe give you a link here, right? Just a second. I'm going to talk about global repo. All right, so I will put the link here to make you question, right, so you can check it out. Okay, so I think there are no more questions, and thank you very much for attending our tech talk, right? We appreciate your time, right? And hopefully you get new knowledge and will use these features in business documents and electronic reporting. Here you have my contact, right? Mail, right? So don't hesitate to write if you have any questions, suggestions, right? Again, thank you very much. And now back to Tim.
Thank you, Mikhail. I've posted a link to a short survey in the Q&A panel. We'd love to hear your feedback on today's session and hear what you'd like to see in future events. Thank you for your participation. As a reminder, the recording of today's session will be made available on the Tech Talks Community Dynamics page within the coming weeks, and the link for that is in the chat. I'd like to extend a big thank you once again to our presenters and to you, our audience, for joining us today. We hope you have a great rest of the day ahead.